Welcome to the occasional ScottMichaux.com golf podcast. I'm Scott Michaux, and with me again is the best radio personality in Augusta, John Patrick, host of the Augusta Golf Show with John Patrick. Thanks for joining me again, John.
Thanks for having me, Scott. How did you enjoy the Open Championship?
Very much so. I always consider it one of my favorite weeks of the whole year, and this was a new experience for me going to the Lytham and St. Anne's area, and I always enjoy the Britsh. What were your impressions when you were watching it on television and seeing what was unfolding there at the end of the tournament?
You know, obviously you begin thinking about Jean Van de Velde, but to me it was nothing like Van de Velde. I mean, Van de Velde was just this cacophony of bad decisions on one hole, and Adams' falling apart was almost kind of shot by shot, almost excusable in every case when it was that one putt or it was that one shot that he would hit left or something. But it was fascinating to watch, and you'll never, ever convince me that when Ernie made that putt on 18, he thought he was in the golf tournament.
No, he probably didn't. I know he thought maybe if he posted a number, it had a chance, but I don't think he thought the way that Adam Scott had been playing for 3 days and most of the fourth that was going to happen. It just didn't seem feasible that Adam was going to blow 4 holes in a row, all in very different ways. I mean, he misses a green from the fairway on 15. He misses a short putt on 16. He makes a horrible decision on 17 that gives him a chance to pull it left when, as Graham McDowell said, all of England was to the right. And then on 18, I thought was the biggest mistake he made of all, which was pulling that 3-wood out and bringing those bunkers into play on that hole. That was where Steve Williams and all his experience needed to come into play and say, you need to either go short of those bunkers or over those bunkers. One way or another, you have to make par here. And that was where I thought he lost the tournament, was the decision on the 18th tee to hit that 3-wood, and that put him in the one place where par was going to be a long shot.
And here's the thing about going forward with all of this, Scott. I don't know where Adam fits into the scheme of things anyway. So if he never really competes again, in a major, I don't know what to make of that. I hope that he does. And if he does, I don't know what to make of that. You know what? I just don't know where his place in history is.
Well, it's a shame because he's such a nice guy and such a beautiful golfer with such a great-looking swing that we expected more of him long ago. But at this point, he's not really been on that major stage as often as we probably thought he would be 10 years ago, when he was winning the Players' Championship at a young age and really showing the promise of being perhaps the next Tiger, because everybody said, hey, look, he's got Tiger's old swing. But I don't know how he bounces back from this. He's such a nice guy that sometimes it stings too badly for a nice guy like that, and the scar tissue can be a little bit too hard to overcome. Ernie is a guy who for years experienced that scar tissue, and I think he really, truly, and genuinely felt bad for Adam and wished it had gone to a playoff so that maybe head-to-head they could decide it rather than have it handed to him while he's standing on the putting green.
Well,
but I don't know how Adam recovered.
Yeah, and talking about that, I don't know that there was anyone who was at that Masters had to be thinking about Ernie standing on that putting green, waiting to see how this is going to finish, thinking back to Mickelson making the putt while Ernie stood on the putting green losing that Masters. I couldn't get it out of my head watching it.
That was one of the questions he got asked afterwards, because that is one of the images of Ernie's career where you really thought it was starting to get away from him because it really stung him so badly. Remember the slumped shoulders and that just look of, I can't believe I just had this taken away from me at Augusta. And then later that year, he had played poorly in the last group at Shinnecock. He got beat by Todd Hamilton. It snowballed on him that year, and I thought that was the year it got away from him. And it was a little eerie seeing him standing on a putting green, waiting to have his fate determined by someone else.
Tiger had a game plan. Game plan seemed to be working most of the time, but there was just something in watching it from here, Scott, that it didn't have a feeling of impending doom, but it almost seemed like he was hanging on a little bit.
It wasn't a bad game plan. For 90% of what he was doing, it was a very good game plan, and it was working very well for 3 rounds. But what was really costing him, I thought, was on the par 5s. There were only 2 of them at Lytham, and he just never took advantage of them. Whereas I think the difference in the scoring between he and Adam Scott after 3 rounds was Adam Scott's performance on the par 5s, and Tiger just could not get to them and make the birdies he needed to make by laying back off the tee on those par 5s. So that's where I thought the game plan kind of fell apart. And then by Sunday, after he made that triple bogey, he kind of had to throw a little bit of that out the window here and there. But at that point, it was almost too late to try to put the hammer down and catch up. He'd put himself in too much of a hole.
Well, you're right, but in the end, and that's the beautiful thing to me when watching something like this transpire, even after the triple bogey, you don't know how the final score and what the final score is going to be, but he didn't have to do that much. But at that point, you're 7 or 8 back and you think you got to push, and you really didn't have to push as hard as you thought you had to push, but you never know that on 6.
No, you don't. And it was kind of shocking to see the way he played 6, too. And then you saw McDowell and the group right behind him get into the same bunker, get into the same situation, and realize, I can't go forward with this. I'm going to have to just knock it somewhere in the bunker where I can get out and try to make a bogey. Tiger looked like a guy determined to get the ball out. Even though he says he was just trying to get it to bounce off somewhere else in the bunker, that just didn't look like what was happening when you were watching it.
And now moving forward, I could see him developing some sort of game plan for the Ocean course.
The Ocean course is a course you need a game plan on. But it's funny. This is his last shot at Glory's last shot to try to win a major this season, and he's going to have to do it on a Pete Dye course, which, quite frankly, has never really worked out all that great for him. He won once at Sawgrass, but Sawgrass and Whistling Straits have never been 2 venues that he ever did all that well on. So here we got another Pete Dye course standing in front of him, and I'm not sure Tiger's the guy to beat there. What do you think about Kiawah and the Ocean course and how it will set up for these guys?
I think it's going to be another free-for-all. I can't. It's been so long since we've been to that venue, and the venue is just a tad different. I think it's a similar scenario as Whistling Straits. I don't know who favors on the Ocean course. It's going to be lengthy, but I don't think it's going to be a driver's course. It is a position golf course. It is target golf, a la Pete Dye, and I don't know who I think can I can give you a name. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think it's an interesting golf course to hold the major on because, like you said, it is wide open. This is a golf course. It's the first time the major has ever come to South Carolina, and here you are going to a golfing mecca state for many people when they think of Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. But you're going to a golf course that claims to have more seaside holes than any other course in the Northern Hemisphere. I have no idea if that's true. It has 10 of them. We do know that, but everything is so exposed to the wind and the elements there that I think it really does create an interesting test for them because there is no question there will be wind and all the time out at Kiawah. I've never been down to the beaches there without having wind there, and there's nothing to stop it.
And we'll throw in the weather again. It may be 100 degrees and breezy. How fun is that?
At least 100 degrees and breezy is better than 100 degrees and stifling like it has been at Tulsa or Atlanta Athletic Club last year.
Well, and that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Not only are you battling some breeze, but you're battling that 100-degree temperature.
Absolutely. It's going to be kind of a crapshoot for these guys, and whoever figures out how to handle it. And the interesting thing about the course is it's got 9 holes that go one direction and 9 holes that go the other, and all those middle 9 are in a row. And one way or another, you're going to have wind in your face or coming across your face, and it just makes it such a unique challenge for them.
I have no clue who's going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if on that Sunday night we sit there and go, wow, that guy's got a major.
Well, it's 7,600 yards, And that would make you think that maybe a guy like South Carolina's own Dustin Johnson might have a shot at it. But that's not the kind of guy I think is going to challenge there. I think it's going to be a mix of guys like Graham McDowell, who's played well this year, Hunter Mahan, Jason Duffner, Lee Westwood, guys who are decent ball strikers and can get it out there a little bit, but keep it between those waist areas. But for some reason, to me, I'm kind of looking off the menu for this at a guy who can handle the wind. And I'm kind of going to go off the menu with Padraig Harrington. He won under the most extreme wind conditions at Royal Birkdale in 2008, and he's playing really well this year. Seems to be kind of heading towards that possible fourth major after an eighth at the Masters and a fourth at the U.S. Open.
You know what? I think that's a great choice, but I would sit there on Sunday night and go, he's got 4 majors.
Well, I'm a little surprised that we said that at the end of the British Open with Ernie. So at this point, I kind of thought Ernie was out. So who knows? Padraig looks closer to in than Ernie did heading into the weekend at Lytham.
I think that's a great point, and I am beginning to step off my Lee Westwood bandwagon. I don't know. He's continually disappointing in the majors.
Well, he is, but he again, he's a guy that hits it out there, and he kind of hits it straight. So he wouldn't be a bad choice there to be in the mix, but whether or not he can stand there at the end holding a trophy, I'm not certain.
Any idea what? Give me a winning score.
Whew. It depends on just how hard that wind blows, but I don't think these guys are going to go very far under par. But I think under par with 4 par 5s on the golf course, I think under par will win. Thanks again to John Patrick. You can listen to his Augusta Golf Show on the weekend on 5 stations, including Columbia, South Carolina, Savannah, and Tallahassee. It airs Saturday morning at 8 a.m. on Augusta's ESPN 1340 a.m., and PGA fans can listen to it Sundays at 10 a.m. on Charleston's WSCC 94.3 FM. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Scott.
And thanks for listening to the podcast on scottmichaux.com.